Hi, I'm Meg Johnson, and welcome to today's video, Scripture of the Week, where we look at a scripture that touches our hearts and inspires our minds and helps us through our day. If you like this video, go ahead and share it. And who wouldn't like this? Well, who wouldn't like this scripture anyway? This scripture is awesome. So this is, hold on, gotta shift. So this is in Matthew 14, so in the Bible, and it is verses, it's a chunk of scriptures, kind of tells a story. So it's verses 10 through 21. I'm pretty sure I went all the way down to 21, yeah. And it starts out with Jesus Christ's cousin, whom he loves, who baptized him. You know, like it starts with that Jesus Christ's cousin, John the Baptist, getting beheaded. So, I mean, just by itself, that's like a whole nother story. However, I just want to put this into perspective. Just imagine your cousin. Just imagine your cousin. Any cousin that you have, and imagine that you learned today that they were beheaded yesterday. Like imagine that you learned that. Just because we don't, commonly behead people doesn't change the situation. Like Jesus didn't learn that his cousin died. The person who paved the way for him died. He learned that he was beheaded. So just imagine that for a second, and how would you feel if you learned that your cousin, who you were close to, was beheaded? And so he tried to, in verse 13 it says, when Jesus heard of it, he departed thence by ship into a desert place apart. Isn't that how we would want to react to? I mean, personally, that's how I like to be alone when I'm sad. I don't like hugs. I don't like people patting me on the head. I just want to be alone for a second and gather my thoughts. And so I really relate to this particular part of the story when it says when Jesus heard of it, he departed to a desert place, like a place where he could be alone. I really relate to that. And but then the verse, this is in the same verse, when the people had heard thereof, they followed him on foot out of the cities. He just can't be alone. Poor Jesus. He learns of this tragic news. He is so sad. He would like to be alone and mourn and be sad, but people are following him all over. And so here comes a big multitude. But then in verse 14 it says, when he saw a great multitude, he was moved with compassion, and he healed all their sick. Like, even though Jesus is the one who's mourning and Jesus is the one who's sad, he takes this time to serve the multitude and heal the people who are sick. And then it goes on, and then he's like, okay, well, it's getting late. Everyone needs to go and get themselves some food. That's what the disciples say. Jesus, we need to let these people go get some food. And Jesus says, no, let's give them some food here. And they bring him, how many? This is in verse 17. 5 loaves and 2 fish, okay? And he takes them, and then, they feed the multitude. And I think I've gone over this scripture before, and I know that I've read it, a bunch of times before too, and they that had eaten were about 5,000 men, and besides women and children. So a whole bunch of people ate the food that Jesus offered them. So he offers them food. He heals all their sick. And this is after he tried to get away and be alone for a minute so that he could pray and gather his thoughts. But everybody came and followed him. And I hope I don't diminish the power of this story and the spirituality of this story and the great example of Jesus Christ by comparing it in such a raw manner. But I want to share something that happened yesterday that I didn't get any bad news, but I had spent the day working really hard. Like I had errands in the morning, and I had errands in the early afternoon, and I had errands in the later afternoon. And after all of my errands, and I'd done it all with my 3-year-old daughter, okay, take a nap on the way down to this one, and then, whatever. And it was a trial for me. And when we were driving home from our last errand, my daughter was just being crazy. Oh, and then what are we going to do? And then when we get home, we're going to play Barbies, we're going to play princesses, we're going to play on the floor, we're going to play this, And just hearing her like, da-da-da-da, in the back seat. And I just tears were just falling out of my eyes. I was so tired from the day, and I was so weary. And I was praying. I said, Heavenly Father, I don't have it in me. I can't do the rest of this day. What am I going to make to eat? I didn't even put in anything to eat. I don't have anything to feed my daughter, my husband. I don't have any food to feed my family when I get home. I'm like, I feel a little bit bad comparing this pathetic little story to this, severe story of the Savior in the Bible. But we're commanded to liken the scriptures to ourselves. And so I'm sorry for the rawness of this, but this is life. This is my life. And I was weeping on the way home, not showing my daughter, but just, wiping all the tears away and thinking, oh my heck, how am I going to feed my family when I get home? I don't have the energy. And I prayed and I said, Heavenly Father, what can I do? I said, I'm sorry to come to you with such a raw request, but I need help. I need creativity in my mind. I need you to tell me what to make for dinner because I don't know. And in my mind, I saw fried fish. And I thought, I can't make fried fish because I wanted to serve my husband. I had been told that morning, and I pray about my to-do list, what I should do that day. And in my to-do list, Heavenly Father had told me to go out of my way to serve my husband. And fried fish, I can get out the stuff for the batter, and I can get it all in bowls, and I can wash the fish, I can cut the fish, I can do everything for it. But I don't fry it. My husband fries it because he's pretty dang good at it. He's a really good, that is his specialty. He makes the best fried fish. But I get it all ready. And I thought I can't serve that for dinner because I want to serve my husband, and so I want to do something. I want to make something for dinner that I can make, not that I can ask him to make. But no, that's just all that kept coming to me. Just make fried fish, make fried fish. And so I came home from this errand with my daughter, who's just, spastic almost. And she starts playing around and doing whatever. And I asked my husband, I said, would you like fried fish for dinner? And he's excited because he loves fried fish. So I was like, okay. So I start getting everything out, put it into the bowls, get the fish out, and do all this stuff. And then he comes in and he starts taking over and he says, Meg, I've been having trouble, with this thing for my work. Can you look at it for me? Can you read it? Can you edit it? Can you fix it? And then it came together, and I understood why the Lord had asked me to make fried fish. It's because he knew that Whit, my husband, is actually the one who makes the fried fish. But as I let my husband take over dinner, I was able to go and serve him in a way that he needed, because he likes making fried. He's a really, really good cook, even better than me, for pretty much everything. But I was able to help him with his project that he had for work and do a good job and help him in a good way because he was making dinner and my daughter was playing. And I just felt so good about that the Lord heard my prayer and answered me in my weariness. We all get those weary times when we just want to kind of curl up and be alone just like Jesus did. But we have lives. We have people to serve. Jesus had the multitudes that followed him. And I as a mom, and you as a mom or a dad or a sister or brother, whatever you are, we all have people who follow us and need our help. And we can't just stay in our desert place apart, even though sometimes we feel like we want to really bad. We have people to feed. Just like Jesus fed those 5,000, I was able to feed 3. 4, because I'm pregnant. I was able to feed 4 people with some fried fish that my husband made, but I was still able to serve him. So anyway, thank you so much for listening to today's scripture of the week. I hope that you're inspired by this story. This, of course, is not the only principle that we can learn from Mathew 14, 10 to 21. And I would encourage you to maybe read that today and think of other principles that you learned that can inspire your life. And then consider the people that you have to feed. Maybe it's real food, maybe it's dinner, maybe you have to feed them dinner, or maybe you feed them mentally, maybe you feed them socially, maybe you feed them spiritually. maybe just a numerous ways that you could feed other people. And we still can, even when we'd like to go to a desert place apart. So thank you so much for watching this week's Scripture of the Week. Come and visit me on my website. I'd love to see you. Click around. There's more videos to watch here and on my site. And subscribe to this YouTube video channel if you're not already. And come and follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Those links are in the description below. So thanks again so much, and have a happy Sunday, and we'll see you next time.